Welcome back to the channel. We're back with our Spider-Man Commander deck profile today with Peter Parker. We have a 1 and a white for a 0/1, where when Peter Parker enters, create a 2/1 green spider creature token with reach. And we could transform him for 1, a green, a white, and a blue into the Amazing Spider-Man. With Vigilance and Reach, you have a 4/4. Each legendary spell you cast that's one or more colors has web sling for green, white, and blue. You may cast a spell for its web sling cost if you also return a tapped creature to its owner's hand. So we have a lot of mana dorks in this deck. In order to make sure we could tap those for some mana, use that mana to web sling in our other stuff, and then get in some big creatures for just a low cost of a 1/1 plus 3 more mana while we're at it. We have some ways to search them out, some ways to draw some cards off of having some big creatures. But overall, big creatures is the theme of this deck. But that's the general overview of the deck. Let's get into it card by card. Starting off, we have an arcane signet because we can't rely solely on creatures for mana. We also need some artifacts because we can get board wiped and then be put 100% behind. Avacyn's Memorial, Indestructible. Other legendary permanents you control also have Indestructible. Most of the creatures in our deck are legendary creatures because you do need them to be legendary creatures for the web slinging ability, but that doesn't really matter too much to us. Biden of Dasa. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, you draw a card. Creatures your opponents control must attack this turn if able if you pay 2 mana for that. Not that hard to get to, but normally the draw power is the main reason we're playing this card because we have some big creatures our opponents can't block at always. Lightning Grease for some additional haste to make sure those creatures can attack the turn they come down, or to make sure our mana dorks can tap for mana the turn they come down, to make sure we could use them for that mana to either web sling or for some just casting our stuff straight out. Relic of Legends. Tap and untap legendary creature you control, add 1 mana of any color, or just tap this to add 1 mana of any color. You tap your legendary creature if it's a low casting cost. Just web sling in one of your bigger creatures by returning that to your hand, because now you had the mana off of this. You already had 2 out of the 3 that you needed for the web slinging. Soul Ring for some additional mana while we're at it. Swiftfoot Boots for same abilities, Lightning Grease, a little bit of protection, a little bit of haste for our big creatures to attack the turn they come in, or to make sure our mana dorks can tap the turn they come in. The Great Henge spells. This spell costs X less to cast, where X is the greatest power among creatures you control. We do have some stuff in here with 7. Normally 5 is still a good trade, but adding 2 green mana and getting 2 life is also just good on its own. Whenever another non-token creature enters battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on it, and draw a card. It only cares about entering, doesn't necessarily care about being cast. So all of our stuff that gets web slinged in, well, yeah, actually, cast a spell for its web sling, so that does still count as casting it. But still, extra draw power, and we bounce our stuff, so we have more and more stuff to cast. The Sariyama enters search library for a legendary creature card, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle. I mean, if we have a chance to get our best stuff out of our deck, let's get our best stuff out of our deck. I only like certain tutors at that. Otherwise, I feel like I'm playing Yu-Gi-Oh too much. For our creatures, we have Absolute Virtue. Normally 8 mana, but if we could get this in for just a 3 for the web slinging ability, even better. Can't be countered. Has flying itself for the 8/8, and you can't take damage from your opponents essentially because of the protection that you got. Avacyn Pilgrim, our first of many mana dorks that we're going to have in this deck. Most of them I'll just refer to them as mana dorks going forward, and they're just going to be normally like 1 mana creatures that tap for a little bit of mana. Avacyn Angel Hope, normally an 8 mana spell that'll give our other permanents indestructible, but also has flying, vigilance, indestructible itself. But getting in for just 3 mana, super helpful for us there. Birds of Paradise, another mana dork, this time with flying. Bloom Tender, another mana dork. This time you get for each color among permanents you control, add 1 mana of that color, potentially getting you the 3 mana that you need for the web sling ability. Sorry about that. I don't know if my cat just Okay, no, still looks good. Sorry about that though. Cat walking keyboard. Captain Sisay, for 4 mana, we could tap it, search your library for a legend or legendary creature, reveal a card, put it into your hand, then shuffle your library. Once again, same thing as we said with Sariyama. If we have our best thing in the hand, why not run it so that we can get it there even easier? Following up, we have Shoelane, Teller of Tales. For 5 mana, we have a 2/4. Whenever you cast a creature spell, draw a card. Then you may put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield. Also has an ability to have itself return target creature you control to its owner's hand, allows you to get some more creatures on the battlefield, and so whenever you cast a creature spell, thankfully web slinging is the cast ability, so we get to draw cards off that, and even more RAM to makes it when the Amazing Spider-Man does get removed, we still have mana to do so. Light Halfling as another mana dork also makes it so our legendary spells can't be countered, even better than most mana dorks. Elvish Mystic as another mana dork. Enduring Vitality makes it so that all of our creatures could tap for some mana now. This way, any of them can be tapped and brought back to our hand, rather than just having them sit there and be big creatures. Gandalf the White, if legendary, permanent, or an artifact entering the ability causing an ability to happen, it happens an additional time. So some additional draw power off of some things entering. Some things that just have some good enter the battlefield abilities. We like them both. Galton Mavern, a 12/12, normally 7 mana. This time we're getting it for 3. Getting us some more big creatures on the board when we're swinging with our other big creatures, or getting us a lot of creatures if we have a lot of creatures on the board already. We have Galta, Stampede Tyrant. When it enters the battlefield, put any number of creature cards from your hand onto the battlefield. So I'm just saying, if we, tap a creature, return to our hand to get us on the battlefield, we have at least one thing that we're getting onto the battlefield with this ability. But normally we'll have a lot of big creatures in our hand that we wouldn't mind getting out. With Gandalf, we could get them out twice. I'll get a Skittish Seer for 3 mana. We have whenever you cast a creature spell with mana value 4 or greater, draw a card, gain a life, put a +1/+1 counter on this card. It doesn't care about how much mana you spent to cast it, only cares if it's mana value 4 or greater, so the web sling does help out this a whole bunch. And you could tap to add X mana of any one color, based on Helga's power. Her getting more powerful to +1/+1 counters allows for more and more counters on her, allowing for more and more mana to cast yourself. And then eventually you can return her to your hand for the web slinging ability if you need to. Kodama of the East Tree. Whenever another permanent enters battlefield, if it wasn't put onto battlefield with this ability, put a permanent with equal or lesser mana value from your hand onto the battlefield. Say if we tap one of our 6 mana things to web sling one of our 7 mana things, we can then get that 6 mana thing back onto the battlefield. I like to see it. Koma, Cosmo Serpent. At the beginning of each upkeep, not just your own, every player's turn, get a 3/3 Koma Coil. Sacrifice one of them, tap target permanent. If its activated ability can't be activated this turn. You can also tap one of your own things in theory in order to, have a tap creature to return back to the hand. And then you can also have it gain indestructible if you sacrifice the serpent. Llanowar Elves as another mana dork. Nizal, Primal Tide, normally 7 mana. Oh yeah, also Coma Coil. Coma is normally 7 mana. No, it's just 3. But Nizal, whenever opponent casts a non-creature spell, draw a card. You can also discard 3, exile this card, returns to the battlefield tapped on its owner's control at the beginning of the next end step. Maybe so get around some board wipes. Yeah, we like to see that there. Noble Hierarch, another mana dork. Old Gnawbone, legendary creature dragon, like a 3 mana spell. 7 mana spell for 3 mana. Also getting a whole bunch of creatures so that in case you can't get Spider-Man back out, you still have a way to play the game. Prime Speaker Zagana. When it's battlefield, X +1/+1 counters on it, where X is the greatest power among other creatures you control, potentially 12. Enters battlefield, draw cards equal to its power. So, you get the 12 +1/+1 counters, you draw 13. It's a pretty good trade. Reki, History of Kamigawa. Or you play a legendary spell, draw a card, allowing you even more draw power because we have a whole bunch of legendary spells in this deck. Selvala, Heart of the Wild. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield, if its controller may draw a card, its power is greater than each other creature's power, which normally ours are going to be, especially if we bounce the second greatest thing back to the hand. Also tap this for some mana, then bounce this back to the hand if you don't need it anymore. Sixth Doctor, whenever you cast a historic spell, copy it, except it's not legendary. Only happens once each turn. We are casting ourselves with a web slinging ability. So I don't know. A second Tarask sounds like a fun time for the D&D party. But it has haste in Ward 10 as long as it was cast, which web slinging hasn't been cast. However, attacks if fights target creature defending player controls, aka some removal while we're at it. For enchantments with Cripplet Right, creatures you control have tap, add 1 mana of any color of your choice. Allow us to tap any of our creatures in order to bring them back to the hand for the Amazing Spider-Man's web slinging stuff. Flowering White Tree, legendary creatures you control get +2/+1, have ward 1, allows that little bit of protection. You also get +1/+1 on natural legendary creatures. It's that first ability we really care about. Garruk's Uprising, uh, draw a card whenever a creature with power 4 or greater enters. I like to see it. And also creatures control trample. I mean, we want to make sure we can actually deal some damage, so it's always helpful. Guardian Project, whenever another non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, it doesn't have the same name, draw a card. Basically, anytime a creature enters, draw a card. I mean, and with how many times we're bouncing our creatures, recasting them, bounce them, recast them, we're going to see a whole bunch of creatures again and again. But if they're not in the graveyard, not on the battlefield, doesn't matter if we cast them before. And Up the Beanstalk, enters the battlefield whenever you cast a spell with mana value 5 or greater, draw a card. Web slinging our 7 mana stuff, draw a card. Only cast it for 3. We like to see it. And for our instance, we have an Offer You Can't Refuse for a counterspell, Arcane Denial for a counterspell, Beast Within for some removal, counterspell for a counterspell, Desynchronization, return each non-land permanent that's not historic to its owner's hand, aka all of our opponent's stuff, our mana dorks in theory, which we're going to bounce anyway. Dovin's Veto for a counterspell, Eldmari's Call, search library for a creature card, put it into your hand, allowing us to get our best creature into our hand, allowing us to, web sling it in. Generous Gift for some removal, Heroic Intervention for some protection, Path to Exile for some removal, Pongifies for some removal, Rapid Hybridization for some removal, Stroke of Midnight for some removal, Sword Splashes for some removal, and Swan Song for a counterspell. As always, we'll just scroll through the lands at the end because you spend $20 on lands, you can spend $200 on land. You don't necessarily need to spend $200 on land, so Austere Command for your board wipe, Cultivate for some ramp because we want to make sure we actually have the mana to do the stuff we want to do. Farseek for some ramp, Finale Devastation, Search Library, or Graveyard for creatures felt mana value X or less and put it onto the battlefield. Another way to cheat in our big stuff from our deck. Access to 10 or more creatures you control get +X/+X and gain haste on turn. Allow us to, tap our mana dorks right away. Not really what we're going for. We're going for the swing. Nature's Lore for some ramp, Rampant Growth for some ramp, Rishkar's Expertise in order to draw a lot of cards and get something with 5 or less onto the battlefield. Druid Visits for some ramp, Time of Need, search your library for a legendary creature, reveal it, put it in your hand, shuffle your library. We have a lot of ways to, search out our legendaries. This way we could cast them and web sling them in super early. And then Urza's Ruinous Blast, exile all non-land permanents that aren't legendary, aka all of our opponent's stuff. Few of ours, we're still getting rid of our Insignificant. But that's the deck there. If you guys like the deck, make sure you like the video. If you guys want to see more like this, subscribe so you can stay tuned for future videos. But thanks so much for watching, and I hope you guys have a great rest of the day.